Over the years, I've seen a lot of people ask for Goku in Smash Bros, and I just don't get that. I'd much rather see Goku in a fighting game. Let's get this out of the way. I am not great at fighting games. I feel like it's important to make that distinction right off the bat, but despite the fact that I'll probably never be able to invest the time it takes to actually master a fighting game, I love playing them. I love watching other people play them as well, and I especially love watching the ones that I actually care about. The problem for me is that, at least until this point, what I care about most has never lined up with what's been the most popular. I can enjoy a good round of Marvel or Street Fighter, and NetherRealm Studios games have nice stories to go with their terrible stiff gameplay, but they're not the kind of games that I'd ever invest hundreds of hours into learning inside and out. And don't get me started on Smash Bros. Yet those are pretty much the only games that ever get any serious airtime at big events like EVO. The games I enjoy playing, anime fighters like Skullgirls and Melty Blood, or literally anything Arc System Works has ever made, tend to get second billing there at best, with a few slots reserved for the most recent games, while fucking Smash Bros gets 2 fucking tournaments every fucking year when it's not even a fucking fighting... Yeah, don't get me started on Smash. I am, however, totally okay with ceding spots to puzzle fighters like Catherine. More Catherine Grand Finals, please. On a personal level, it sucks that the games I actually properly understand are so underplayed, because I know that I'd get more enjoyment out of watching a hype moment in something like Persona 4 Arena or BlazBlue simply because I get, at least in theory, what went into executing it. But I'm not unreasonable. I get that viewer interest is what drives what gets slots at EVO, and substantially more people know what Street Fighter and Tekken are compared to Guilty Gear or Arcana Heart or Under Night Inbirth. What I personally would rather see or play is never going to determine what actually gets a spot at a big tournament. However, I feel like these tournaments are limiting their own reach, at least a little, by ignoring and underselling these games. Because anime fighters, in addition to being some of the flashiest, fastest things in the fighting game space, often rank among the most technically complex fighting games out there. I would argue that Guilty Gear, with its crazy supers, multiple flavors of cancels, and in many cases absurd and over-the-top normal moves, has as much potential for insane and memorable EVO moments as any Street Fighter, and BlazBlue and Persona 4 Arena have nearly as high a skill ceiling while being considerably more accessible at a base level than your average Capcom game, at least if we're not counting Street Fighter V, which we shouldn't. That accessibility is important. BlazBlue and Persona 4 Arena share enough DNA with Guilty Gear that you can jump between them without too much hassle, which also means that someone who's played one will be able to understand the others to a greater degree than the casual viewer. So if, say, BlazBlue or Persona were more widely played, that would allow more people to appreciate what's going on in a hype Guilty Gear match. Which is one big hurdle that's faced by any fighting game. If you don't know how to play, the action can be hard to follow. Most fighting gamers don't play any of the anime fighter series, in part because they get such mediocre billing at the biggest fighting game event in the world. And the annoying catch-22 of that is that because of that, they rarely ever get featured outside of the years when a new game releases, which means that they never get the chance to have the exposure that the Street Fighters of the world do. But this year, that may be set to change. Street Fighter is falling out of favor thanks to some poor business decisions, and it seems to be taking Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite with it. Tekken 7 is doing about as well as any Tekken does, which is to say, fucking amazing, but it's not exactly a direct competitor for any 2D fighter, and there's no Switch Smash Bros on the horizon or anything like that to eat up the casual gamer's attention. Somehow, for the first time ever, the hypest upcoming fighting game by a wide margin is coming to us from Arc System Works, and though the lack of serious competition is probably going to help it a lot in the hardcore market, that's not the only reason that it's getting so much attention. Among casual fans who don't necessarily care about frame counts or cancel systems or anything like that. The most important aspect of a fighting game is whether or not it has characters that appeal to them and that they want to play. Arc System Works has managed to get their hands on one of the most well-known licenses in the world, Dragon Ball Z, with some of the most iconic characters in the world. And because they've actually made a good game out of that, the mainstream is taking notice in a big way. And I think that's going to be great for fighting games as a whole, as well as anime fighters specifically. It's not going to surprise anyone who's actually played an Arc System Works game before to see that Dragon Ball FighterZ is one of the most slick, polished-looking games ever made. But for anyone who's not a hardcore fighting gamer, to anyone who associates the Dragon Ball name with simple, cheap, clunky games like Budokai and Xenoverse, the way that the Guilty Gear Xrd engine brings anime-style graphics to life is gonna be mind-blowing. A lot of people who rarely give fighting games the time of day are talking about Dragon Ball FighterZ. It's hitting the top of not just the expected subreddits like r/Kappa and our two best friends play, but also R Games and R Gaming. And if you can say nothing else about those boards, they definitely do represent the perspective of the general gaming audience. Now, getting a lot of coverage on Reddit is by no means a guarantee of future sales, but at this point it would be surprising if Dragon Ball didn't at least sell to the same level as Street Fighter 4, or maybe Street Fighter 5, or the recent Mortal Kombat games. And while it's unlikely, Dragon Ball Z is one of the few franchises with the name cachet to potentially touch Smash Bros in terms of sales. That is, assuming the game is very well received and gets a lot of positive word of mouth. I mean, think about it this way. If you're not a fighting gamer and you want to have a casual game night with your friends, you probably aren't going to break out King of Fighters or Tekken, but you might very well goof around with that crazy new 3-on-3 Dragon Ball game that everybody is talking about. And once people do actually have their hands on the game, they're going to find all of the hallmarks that Arc System Works is known for. Tight, responsive gameplay that always makes you feel like the win or loss is 100% in your hands, a huge, diverse roster of characters, and a high skill ceiling with a shockingly smooth learning curve. That last point is really important. In my experience, BlazBlue, Persona 4, and especially Guilty Gear Revelator with its amazing tutorial all provide much quicker transitions to mid and high level play, the stuff that keeps fighting gamers coming back for more fighting games, than just about anything else on the market. And if that holds true for Dragon Ball FighterZ, it's going to mean more people who at least understand high level play when they watch it, and more people who are capable of playing above a casual level. And looking again at past Arc System Works games, there's little doubt that FighterZ will have the depth required to actually sustain a hardcore community at the center of all that attention, which means that all those new fans will have something to watch at EVO for at least a year or two. And with any luck, in that time we'll see players advance to a point where the game starts generating crazy viral EVO moments of its own that get more people talking about it. Bringing in a big, fresh batch of new players and a large new audience can only benefit the fighting game community. And if there's one thing the community needs more of, it's games that straddle that line between accessibility and technical play, and create a bridge for button mashers to cross over into the land of hardcore skill. But I do think it will be especially great for people who love anime fighters in particular. If FighterZ can achieve anything near the success of Tekken or Smash Bros, it's going to drastically increase the number of people who are interested in and can actually follow what's going on in it and games like it. Obviously, the 3-on-3 mechanics are going to make it feel less like Arc System Works' other titles and more like Marvel vs. Capcom, but with the same engine and animation team behind it, I fully expect Dragon Ball FighterZ to have at least a similar input feel to Guilty Gear, which should make it easier to transition between them. And once they have a taste of FighterZ, I anticipate that there will be a lot of people who want more and decide to jump over to other games. Maybe they'll jump over to Guilty Gear for more of those slick 3D graphics, or maybe they'll jump to the upcoming BlazBlue Cross-Tag Battle for its beautiful sprite work and diverse cast of characters. But either way, people are going to make that jump. And what that means in the long term is that there's going to be a bigger audience of people who actually understand what's going on in all anime fighters. I don't know if that will necessarily translate to stuff like Guilty Gear or Uniel getting equal billing with Street Fighter and Smash at future EVOs, and I don't think that just one game can change things that drastically overnight, but Dragon Ball FighterZ has the potential to help elevate anime fighters in general above their niche placement. Of course, this is all assuming that nothing goes horribly wrong with the game, and while that is unlikely given both the positive early reports that I've heard from friends who've played it and Arc System Works' incredible track record, it's not impossible. But as long as the game doesn't ship with a boatload of DLC or without a decently sized roster or a good story mode, I think things will turn out fine. It's everything around the game that's got me really excited though, even more so than everyone who's marveling at how well they recreated Trunks' moves from the show in his new reveal trailer. Not only am I going to get a new game to play in a franchise that I love, it's very likely that I'm going to get a new batch of people to play it with, a new group of top-level players to watch, and more attention for other games that I love. But I want to know what you guys think. For the anime fans out there, is Dragon Ball FighterZ getting you interested in the world of fighting games where you might not have been before? Or if you're already a part of the FGC, are you as excited for this game's potential as I am? Or do you think that it's just going to be another stylish but empty Shonen Jump license and I'm just blowing smoke? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and if you could hit subscribe and like the video while you're down there, that would be super. And if you want to support me further, hit up patreon.com/mothersbasement like all of these awesome people whose names you're seeing on screen right now, and throw some money my way to help me pay editors and make more cool videos. If you want to hear me talk about the Dragon Ball Z anime, then you should check out this dissection of the Japanese opening theme song. Or if you want to get an in-depth look at another kind of cool fight, check out the One Punch Man analysis right down here. If this is the last I see of you today, then I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.